big headache could be the knight in the middle game. Very jumpy and very unpredictable, and you need to make absolute certain that you're not going to get forked or anything, or you are going to be creating threats to your opponent. So we are going to focus on the knight activity in the middle game. All right. I know we might be like emotionally favoring the bishops, but there are moments in which the knight is super happy and very problematic, and you should be using it to your advantage. Let's have a look at this game here. That happened in 1963 between Botvinnik with white and Dona in 1963. Don't think about lamb or chicken Dona. I don't know. Sorry, I couldn't help it. But anyway, we are going to be focusing on what we said, knight activity. So, Botvinnik here played knight to d4. Now, definitely that prompts a bishop straight. So bishop on b takes the bishop on g, and king must take back. Now, the idea behind this move was simply to try and take advantage of the c6 outpost for your knight. Outpost meaning there is no pawn to be challenging your knight here. So that will be very nice and safe. And of course, if there is something like rook trying to preventing you, the exercise wants to tell us now that a move like b5 would be cementing the knight very nicely to be playing here with a lot of attacking prospects everywhere. And if you throw in a rook, even more beneficial for white here, my chess friends. Okay, so c6 definitely to be exploited. The important thing in this series of exercises now would be for you to identify where is the outpost for your knights, or how do you prevent your opponent to placing their knights on the outpost that will be frustrating or causing you troubles, like in this exact situation here, where if you look at it, you notice that the knight on c3 would be so eager to be jumping on d5, and frankly, you can't challenge it. There is no pawn, and there is no light square bishop to aim and attack that knight. So you better do something now, because that's the only chance you've got. Okay, so now if you look at the position, you will recognize that there is a bishop that actually is more than able to make a pinning the knight to the rook. So the knight now can't play unless they want a second exchange. That doesn't make any sense because they're going to be losing the game. So with this particular move now, you neutralized an incredibly active and dangerous knight. Bishop on b4. So if they play rook to c, do not be very shy in trading the bishop for the knight now. I know that we actually favored bishops. We tend to be favoring, or many of us, let's say, but this guy is just way too dangerous. It's way too dangerous. So you rather take it off now and just be done with it, and just go normally try to play normal chess. Double your rook on the d file probably, and you've got absolutely no problem whatsoever. Everything's great and fine for black in this position here. So further on, the bishop had moved on e6. It's like they tried to tempt you to give you a super nice, active, aggressive knight for that bishop. So you don't take this, because the bishop here, it's incredibly passive. This guy doesn't do absolutely nothing. Whereas if you just contemplate the position for a bit longer, you will notice, guys, that knight on h5 is a devastating move. Looks like a crazy sacrifice, right? Well, it's not that much of a crazy, because that's a super poisonous knight. And actually, if the queen there is taking your knight, you're going to be sanctioned them immediately with queen over to g7 and checkmate. Right? So they can't take it. And if you say, yeah, but what about g6? That still weakens the dark square terribly. You're going to be playing knight to f6 here, checking the king and forking the rook. It's just a disaster. And if the king runs away, you always have this check here. I mean, I don't even know what to tell you what's worse for black here. It doesn't work anything. Of course, g6 might be prolonging the suffering a bit more for your opponent, but nevertheless, it's gone, and you are going to win the position, as we have seen, my friends. So let's move on now to another tutorial. Now, we've got a knight ourselves, and we would like to getting this knight to be attacking a bit more, increasing the aggression on the king side here, queen side. So how exactly are we going to do this? Well, let's try to figure out where will this knight be happier than currently on d3. And don't forget that the black knight already targets your pawn here. So rather than playing defensively, something like, oh, I got to protect and stuff like that, rather than doing this, why not looking for something a bit more aggressive, like, for instance, knight to c5. What does that do? Well, you kind of protect that guy, but it does a bit more than just protecting the pawn. It does a bit more because the knight here definitely eyes the b7, and if you manage to just grab the queen very nicely and creating some threats, and this guy is pinned and everything looks so optimistic for white in this scenario. Way better chances for attacking being white here, my friends. Okay. So let's look now at the next scenario here. What is the weakness? Let's identify the weakness, the point to be attacked from your opponent. So first, where do you think is the most vulnerable? And you should be able to recognize that we're talking about the e6 pawn here, the e6 square and black pawn. You can target straight away. You've got it with a knight. So now you play the knight, but mind you though, don't go this way. Don't go this way because they're already attacking twice. So there's no point in doing that, all right? What about the d4? The d4 is totally safe. You keep this guy blocked for a bit longer, but more importantly, you're looking at the pawn. Tremendous attacking power on the e6, which is your opponent weakness. Now, mentioning you kind of like opening a little bit the queen's diagonal, so you never know. There are so many good things coming your way. Awesome if you just play and exploit your opponent's weaknesses in this fashion, making use of your knight. Now, rook had been played. Focus a little bit on the knight on e2, which doesn't do too many things. Plus, your opponent intends to probably play the knight here. Can you find a very good move with your knight, activating your knight, and also perhaps placing your knight on a great superb outpost? You've got it. It's the f5. How do you get there with the knight on f5? Well, you just have to remind yourselves that the knight can just jump and go to firstly g3 and then f5, and that's a very good attacking prospect here for white. On the king side, a lot of pressure being added, and f5 is all yours. Great stuff here. Next situation here, my friends. Let's focus again on the knight because we are discussing the knight in this short video. What is the knight on f3 going to do? What do you do with that knight? I mean, you're not going to keep it there. It doesn't do nothing. You need to try to activate your stuff here. And can you guys perhaps just pause the video or just go straight into the plan that you've identified? Is there a particular square you would like to take advantage of? And actually, I think I've seen quite a couple of things, and probably you did too, my friends. You're going to be starting with knight over to h4 because that's incredibly promising. You might be thinking f5. But also, have you noticed, guys, that there is also g6 to be exploited? g6 because the pawn is pinned. They can't take you. You've already got a bishop. So that's the quality of you guys, to keeping a bishop on, c4, b3, especially if your opponent castles short. And if you throw in a knight, like in your position here, so they play the knight in this position, and you can absolutely make a fundamental move here. A fork, devastating. Queen has to go to safety. You simply take a rook with your knight. You should be winning. Game is not over, but white is winning, okay? You just got to be careful. Play this one. Nice chess here, and you should be able to win because you took a rook with your knight. Okay, what does your opponent want to do here? Well, they play the knight from the f1 over to e3 because you've got it. They want to play on the outpost, which is d5. You try to stop this. You need to stop this because if you don't, I'm not sure how exactly you're going to get rid of this knight. Just imagine the white knight plays on d5. So sometimes, if you just understand that, work towards preventing this from happening. Prophylactically, try to do something to stopping it. Well, there's no pawn. You've got no pawn. You've got no light square bishop. But you can make a pin. Now you can play bishop g5, pinning the knight to the rook. They can't play the knight because they're going to be dropping the rook. Okay, so that looks already very good. And frankly, you're just going to go for a trade just to making sure there is no knight to be threatening d5. Very terribly frustrating and annoying. And, when they attack your bishop, don't just run away. Trade that guy. Just make sure there is no knight available for your opponent. Of course, they will be taking you here, but not a problem. You have a lot of good prospects here. Just consider this kind of moves, isolating this guy, getting the queen over here, getting the rook over to f. So a lot of good attacking prospects. The white king would be more exposed to attack than the black king. So guys, keep this idea amongst many other stuff that we've discussed together. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, fellas, and maybe I'll see you during the live stream, perhaps this evening, 17th of April, because we've got the 11th round of the FIDE candidates, guys. So maybe we're going to be seeing each other and discussing more chess stuff together. Thank you for watching the video, guys, and see you soon.